I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with the cinematographer behind CODA, Paula Huidobro. And I wanted to start by asking what was just the overall vision that you had for the look of the film and what Sean Hayter's, the director's vision was in the beginning.
I mean, I think the film has so much going for it in terms of story, like the beauty of the landscape and the fact that we actually shot in a real location and that the story developed from that inspiration and the whole love thing and the whole super strong family ties, that we wanted the cinematography to be very natural and sort of non-invasive or distracting, and sort of let the characters play more with the frame. And I guess it was more of a organic look rather than something that would call attention to itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a brightness to the film that I found really striking, especially like in this current climate where a lot of films tend to be darker and more stylized. And you have a lot of exterior scenes that you shot. It looks like very natural type of lighting. What was your approach to just the lighting for those scenes that are out on the boat or by the lake, those types of locations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was I mean, we shot 6K with Sony Venice, and we had like large format lenses, and we wanted to sort of capture the expanse of the ocean and nature, and yeah, we wanted like very naturalistic lightings, and yeah, that's kind of what we went for.
Yeah. Well, right away, I think there's this great showcase of your work, the very opening shot that just moves over the water, and eventually we get to the characters on the boat. So I'm curious, just what were your steps that you took to execute just the opening sequence?
Well, the opening sequence was actually kind of tricky and required a lot of planning, just because we actually shot on a real fishing boat and we had to abide by the regulations of the fishing whatever. so
Mm-hmm.
we so we went scouting, and like Sean befriended the fishermen, and we actually went on a couple of trips ahead of time, and we had to be 3 miles away from the coast minimum. So yeah, we just had to plan our shoot very well, and also you can only like bring the fish alive a couple of times before they die, so you have to troll the nets for like a really long time to capture all those fish. And then the actors had to be like trained on how to actually fish and be safe. And then the same one for our crew, like we only had a limited amount of crew who could be on the boat, so we decided that handheld would be sort of the more organic and sort of best way to capture the stuff inside the boat. And then we had another boat with a crane and a remote head that was stabilized for more of the beauty shots of the in the ocean.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I have to say, I watched it for the first time a few months ago and watched it again recently. And I was just really always struck by the intimacy of this family and the closeness. But then watching it again, recently, I did notice a number of the wider shots that really do create this sense of place, especially with Ruby, whether she's out on the lake or at these other local places. She's really just like right in the middle of this grand environment. So, what were you hoping to sort of reflect on a story level with those kinds of wider shots?
Mm, I mean, I think it's also a coming of age story, and it's like about her finding her own place in her family, and like finding her voice and sort of discovering who she really is. And I guess the story was very grounded in Gloucester. So, and she was meant to feel like she really belonged there for like generations. And so I guess the space and the landscape and was like a crucial part of the story, like sort of feeling like you belong there, but then also that you're kind of small and you don't know who you really are or what's going to become of you.
Yeah, it's a really nice touch. And then, you know, looking at the more intimate scenes, the one that I responded to the most and what a lot of people are really moved by is the scene where the concert is over, the school concert, and Ruby is sitting with her dad and it's nighttime and she sings the song for him and he's like feeling the vibrations. And it's just this really emotional and touching scene. Can you talk about just not only figuring out the camera work for that scene, but also what that was like on set and sort of witnessing such a vulnerable moment?
No, I mean, I think it was incredibly touching as a crew member to have been there, because you don't, I mean, you are aware of what it may be like to be deaf, but you never have experienced it, and to be like in that situation where the dad really wants to understand what her gift and stuff, and then it just felt like really intimate and sort of magical. And then also the connection between them, it's truly special, like the love of a father for a daughter. I felt it was very honest, and so it's just magical when you're allowed to be that close to actors while they're doing magic.
Yeah. And I love how you really just hold on his face as he's watching this play out. I think that really elevated the scene in many
Oh,
ways.
oh,
Um,
thank
and then going to just, I should have mentioned the actual concert first, because that's another part of it where we get this shift in perspective where we experience things as Ruby's parents experience things, with the volume going all the way down and it's just silent. And just everything has to be communicated visually, and the audience has to understand that we're now seeing things from their perspective. So what was the process in terms of breaking down that scene, that shifting?
I mean, I mean, Sean and I have been working together since we were quite young, and this is, I think, I mean, it's the second movie. What we've done a bunch of short films and a TV show, and we always love to like spend time shot listing her and her sister, who's the storyboard artist, and we like to imagine what the scenes would be like. And this was one of them where we're like, oh, what would it feel like to be them and to be in that space? And I think it started from there. And then also I was very surprised when I saw the film subtitled, because a lot of the humor you would miss out because you don't really understand.
Yeah.
And Troy and Marley, like they just added like a whole layer of humor to something could potentially be sad as well.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, well, there's also just in terms of the family dynamic, there's such a lived in and warm feeling of Ruby and when she's at her house and they're communicating with each other. I'm actually curious how you worked with the space of their home and to use that intimate feeling sort of to your advantage.
yeah, I mean the house, it was like super beautiful, but it was also falling down, so we could only have a limited amount of crew members upstairs before it collapsed. But it was I mean it was aged, like it was real, so everything had texture and the colors were incredible and the light was, I don't know, just magical. And I think when you actually shoot in the location that stories take place, you're so much more inspired, and you need to do less work because it's just magical on its own. And I think because the house was so small, like there were limitations of where you could put the camera, but then I feel like that's what makes you feel real and close to them, and you focus more on the dynamic of the family as opposed to like style.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I also like to ask for cinematographers and other behind the scenes people is just was there a particularly challenging scene that maybe the average audience member might not think of as something that might have been difficult, but that you found to be a particular challenge on the set?
Well, I think, yeah, definitely shooting on the boat was pretty difficult, as we mentioned. And then we had another scene where they jump from a quarry. So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of a, just in terms of the safety for the actors and like moving equipment around. But yeah, I mean, I think it was more about being real to the story and not, yeah, just staying in it instead of like overthinking it, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny because I just talked to the sound editor, Martin Pincenalt, and he kind of said a similar thing about not wanting to overdo things or overthink things. So that's a funny similar philosophy. But
Oh,
just sort of looping back around to working with Sean, I know, like you've said, you've known each other and worked together on multiple projects now. I was hoping you could just speak to what makes her special to work with as a director compared to other people you might have worked with.
mm, I mean, she's a true leader, and she has incredible amount of energy, and she has a clear vision, and she sort of gathers everyone in one single direction, which is, I think it's really important when a director like is clear but also sort of warm and inclusive and lets everyone bring part of who they are to the story. Uh, and and I mean, she did a ton of research about the deaf community and like language. She even learned how to sign, and I mean, I think it was one of the hard things about the movie, sort of communicating, like when we were blocking out the scenes, just like her speaking and then someone translating, and like us being able to understand what the actors were saying. So there was a lot of like, that was a little bit challenging at times. And also like learning how to frame for sign language, because you can't rely on close-ups like you usually do on movies.
Right.
That was another thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I mean, the film, it had such a huge response at Sundance. It won a bunch of prizes, including the Audience Award, the Grand Jury Prize. Critics loved it, audiences loved it. I'm curious for you, when was the first time that you realized that you were making something special here, and also just how you reacted to all that love from Sundance?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it was during COVID, so
Right.
it just all happened on a computer. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think it was the first time that I saw it subtitled was when I saw the whole magic of the movie. Because yeah, I think a lot of the humor, like, you wouldn't necessarily know as you were filming it. But yeah, I mean, I think it was also a great experience shooting the film and sort of being in the community. Like Sean was able to like get really involved with the fishing community and with the town, and like we would hang out there. So it was a fun movie to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, here at Gold Derby, we love talking about awards. And you were actually nominated at the Emmys a few years ago for your work on the first season of Barry.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yes, I'm curious just what that experience of being nominated by your peers in the industry, what that was like for you,
Well, I
especially
mean,
for a show like Barry.
it was incredible. It was actually my first TV show I had ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So it was truly special, and I didn't even expect it. I didn't even know that they had submitted me. So it was fun. And yeah, I mean, I think it was it was also a great experience working on Barry with Bill Hader, and like the producer Aida Rogers. Like, she really took a chance hiring someone who had never done television. So I was grateful as well.
Do you know, can you say anything about a season 3? Are you involved with that at all?
Well, they're actually doing season 3 right now, but I wasn't able to do it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Just curious. But
Yeah, you'll be
yeah.
back.
Yeah. But just looking at your filmography, you've worked with a lot of great creative people like Sean and Bill Hader on Barry, and you worked on Insecure for a few episodes with Issa Rae. You were a part of a Terrence Malick film, Song to Song. What would you say is, like the work that you look back on most fondly, whether it's the work that you did or the people that you got to work with or the project itself? What is that one project for you that just will always stand out to you?
I mean, I think for different reasons, different projects, but I really love working with Craig Gillespie on Physical, the Apple TV show. And I work with him again on Pam and Tommy Hulu limited series that's going to come out next year. I mean, he's also incredibly talented and inspiring, and sort of pushes you to do even better. And so I guess he's one of the highlights of my career. And then also, I don't know, working with Paul Bettany on Shelter with Jennifer Connelly, just because she's so incredible and magical, and I was operating, so I was able to be like really close to the actors, and it was very emotional and dark. So that was another thing I love.
Yeah. Well, just speaking to CODA, I mean, it has had a very profound effect on people. Do you similarly feel like that sense of having done it, you feel like you can take something from this experience as you move forward in your career that maybe you didn't have before this?
I mean, I think learning that sometimes you have to let the story speak for itself, and it's not all about like shining on your own. Like, you are part of a project and you have to do what's right for the story. And I think, I mean, you never know if a movie is gonna be good or bad. Like sometimes you make a mistake, but I mean, this one, I think it's like it comes from the love and sort of dedication that Sean put into the project, and sort of finding actors that were magical as well.
Yeah, and a great crew behind it too. Yeah. So yeah, it is magic. Well, for those of you watching, like and subscribe for more interviews, and head to goldderby.com to make your Oscar predictions. Thanks so much for your time, Paula.
Thank you very much.